Hi everyone, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel to grow and thrive. Thank you. So as a broad category, in regard to what Democrats should do, well, obviously work steadily, relentlessly toward taking back governing power, of course, and this involves, first and foremost, through winning elections. And keep in mind that despite the fact that it is said currently, sure, Trump's approval rating is down, but Democrats have an even lower approval rating. That may be true. But notice, election after election, Democrats are either winning in places they shouldn't be winning, or in a couple of places they lost but completely outperformed the numbers, the expected numbers in deep red places. And in key places like, for instance, Wisconsin or recently in Nebraska, voters are voting for Democrats where normally they would vote for a Republican. I expect this to continue steadily into the end of this year and into next year. And this, I think, is super, super important. But then, if you are trying to assess what can be done in terms of tactics, strategy, here's where you look at what this leadership is doing, you look at how they're failing, and the top of the list in this respect is the president's catastrophic decision to impose the tariffs in alignment with the Saturn cycle, which takes us back to early April. And in doing so, he touches the deadly third rail, and it is extremely unlikely he comes back from that. I can see that point as being the beginning of the decline from which there is no return, especially because his temperament prevents him from backing down. Indeed, I'm looking today at news reports, and he's making threats that he's going to impose tariffs on all kinds of countries that haven't made deals like he wants them to. He had this idea that he would set up this tariff system and countries would be lining up to bow to him, to give in, to agree to anything. But it's not turning out to be anywhere near as easy as he thought. And the problem with this approach is that there is pretty much no way to avoid creating inflation and incurring in job losses. There really isn't a way to avoid that. And so this is the kind of thing that makes people mad, including his own people. It's inevitable. You have to realize that a lot of people vote in elections, and indeed I could even say that often they decide the elections. There's a big group of voters that are more engaged. They typically vote possibly the same way, or they go back and forth a little bit, but they're more informed, they know what's going on. But in the end, when the margins are tight, it's decided by people who go with really immediate concerns and don't really understand what they're voting for, such as what happened here, in the sense that people had this idea in their mind. They remembered the pre-pandemic years as good economically, even though all of that was nothing other than Barack Obama's economy, and the orange man was riding with it. People ascribed this thing to his economic prowess, which he doesn't have at all, period. He's showing it to you now pretty clearly. And so they vote in this way because he said, I'm going to lower prices. I'm going to make things better for you on that level. That's what these voters wanted. And he's not only not doing that, from day one of his administration, he's started to change his mind. And now it's becoming more and more of a reality. And this applies not just to big ticket items, it applies to all items all the way down the line. And you give people enough time to experience that, and they will turn against you. That is the historical context. Look back all kinds of administrations that failed because of economic downturns, even when other things were going really, really well. So now the thing is, in terms of a strategy, this is where I would recommend this to the Democratic Party, whoever is advocating for the Democratic cause. We have to pin the economic downturn, the economic problems on Trump, because he's causing them, obviously. Now, the fact that concurrent with this, he's also engaging in pretty massive corruption, and you notice that this is not just upsetting all the people that opposed him in the first place. Now his own people are starting to be upset by the idea of taking, jets from Qatar and countries that are connected to the support of terrorism, the support of Hamas, etc., etc. But with the orange man, give him money, give him gifts, he'll always take them, and he seems totally intent upon this. So that is helpful, because corruption is another feature that tends to take administrations down. And so if you couple those two, you lead with the economic problem, and you pair it with corruption and also with incompetence, because it's the other thing. You've got all kinds of people in this administration that, to be blunt, don't really know what they're doing, and so they're going to make mistakes, cause problems for themselves, unfortunately also for us. This is why, separately, everyone has to remain vigilant, because, in a sense, nothing is safe. I mean, we have a total crank in charge of health, and there may be, salmonella outbreaks, or who knows, problems with any or all of that, since they're cutting all kinds of positions and so forth. So absolutely, this period is difficult for everyone, but there may not be any other way to get to the other side other than to live through it. And what gives me optimism is that this administration is providing all kinds of entry points. The most dominant, the most notorious is definitely the economic disaster that they've entered into, and from which backing down is very, very difficult. And so if the focus is on that, and then you add the other problems, which are pretty obvious as well, lots of these MAGA people that support this guy are already warning about the danger of corruption scandals and the kind of damage that they can do. And you can tell something's going on, because people that are normally totally supportive are speaking out from the Republican side. I mean, when you hear Ted Cruz, complaining, that something's up. And this is likely to continue and get worse, because why? You look at the orange man's chart. It's clear as could be that what has he been doing? He's been flying high, mostly on his own fumes, because of the Jupiter. And even the idea of being given a really expensive plane is a Jupiterian gift of sorts, but it's like a Trojan horse in the sense of how corrupt it is and how it can come back to haunt you. It's the classic arrogance of Jupiter. Jupiter leaves, goes to the next sign, the situation then changes. That is not at all as helpful to him. In fact, it's not helpful at all, only in the sense that he will probably increase his attempts at illegal actions and all of that, because Jupiter goes to the 12th, which is a place of illegalities, criminality. I mean, he's very familiar with all of that. But notice again, there are lots of good markers around the judicial system resisting him, and it is by no means an easy path, particularly if you look at the astrology and you see what comes as the year unfolds, and he has to travel through all that Saturn and Neptune in the Pisces, which is near where he implemented the tariffs. So that makes total sense in terms of it coming back and showing what is really happening, not in a good way. absolutely not in a good way. Now, the other comment that I see on the channel from time to time is, yes, but when is he going to go away? Well, the answer to that is that, yes, it could happen sooner than later from the vantage point of there being health pressures. They're definitely there. But it can happen at times that it's the idea that, of course, in boxing, what does the boxer try to do? He tries to knock the other guy out, end it as soon as possible. That isn't always possible. Sometimes you win on points. So what is happening is that you are punishing the other boxer, and then slowly you win the bout that way. And I've said quite a few times that his health is compromised. You are seeing that decline before your very eyes. In fact, I think that some of his really bad decisions are because his health is failing and will continue to fail month by month as we go into the end of this year, next year, and so on. There is some possibility he may make it all the way to the end, but much diminished. If so, it's not going to be good for him. Of course, it won't be good for the country either, but it certainly won't be good for re-electing the GOP. Not a chance of that. And that's what we focus on. And so, rather than thinking, why doesn't something happen through his health aspects that makes him go away immediately? Yes, that could happen, although realize our system of governance would immediately put J.D. Vance in power, and I'm not sure that would be in any way advantageous. The way this man is declining before our very eyes, becoming less effective, becoming more and more reckless, is actually an advantage from the perspective of removing this form of governance. So I think that's the best way to focus on this, but I'll end by returning to what I said at the beginning, that in terms of the Democratic strategy, for the voters, vote, obviously stay focused, stay vigilant, constantly keep your eye on the situation to do whatever is important to protect your interests. From the perspective of the broad Democratic Party, the key issue is the third rail that he touched, which is the economic downturn. And the rest, you basically wrap it around that, and you've got a really, really good combination, especially going into next year's really important elections, because again, you can see really, really clearly that in his chart, at that time, there is what I'll refer to as thick Saturn in direct square. Now, that at minimum portends losses, but it could be worse because that Saturn, remember that Saturn is linked to his health house, comes from another health house, so it could signify an even worse time on that account. But the main point is, from the perspective of electoral success, for him and for the GOP, not good at all.